Chapter 1, Stormy Beginnings. My grandson Aiden squirmed against the cushion of the mahogany booth and reached for another warm, flaky cheddar biscuit, sending crumbs across his coloring sheet. Our visit to Red Lobster's all-you-can-eat shrimp extravaganza had become a birthday tradition. The familiar shiplap walls and the smell of seafood always took me back to the memorable day when a baby boy came home with a hurricane. Aiden, do you remember why the day you were born was so special? He responded with a mouth still full of biscuit. Because of the big storm? I paused as a waiter refilled our drinks. That's right. You had to stay at the hospital a few extra days because of Hurricane Ike. Not that the delay had mattered as I sat on the teal hospital couch holding the sweetest bundle of perfection I had ever seen. Sure, massive sheets of rain pounded the window behind me, power was out all over town, and trees were being snapped in half or uprooted. It didn't matter. My heart was overflowing with an intense love for this brown-eyed baby boy holding my pinky finger in his wrinkled little hands. He was here. We were safe. Named for my husband, Aiden J. Green had already captured my heart. The raging love of this Nana for her first grandchild bested the storm. The waiter stopped by again, this time to slide a steaming platter of shrimp onto our table. When we finally brought you home, I continued, we had no electricity. We were all so hungry that we decided to go eat at Red Lobster while we waited for the power to come back on. So that's why we come every year, to remember. My daughter Ashley wiped a smear off Aiden's mouth with a napkin and ruffled his hair. Yes, Ashley laughed, rolling her eyes in mock disgust. What a day that was. Aiden scribbled a crayon across his sheet of paper, more interested in his drawing than in the details of his birth. But I held the details close, never wanting to forget the story that made his birthday as special and significant as he is. The storm had begun long before the day he was born. Ashley, 17 and in love with her high school sweetheart, had moved out long enough to get her heart broken and to get pregnant. For days after she returned home, I sobbed under the bed covers, grieved about how having a child would alter her life. I knew all too well what you had to give up as a teen mother. I knew the cynical stares and judgmental looks she and her child would receive. I knew the mountains of baggage that came from stepping outside of God's design for sexuality. I knew the challenges of single parenting and the destruction it could cause to both their hearts. I also worried about how this pregnancy would alter my life. What would people say? A church youth director with a teenage daughter pregnant out of wedlock? Why would the parents of my students want me to continue teaching their students when I had failed my own child so completely? This was not the way I had pictured grandparenting. But that day, sitting in a Red Lobster after a storm with a tiny bundle of pure joy, my heart was beyond full. The love I had for him was bigger than any love I'd ever felt in my life. Different. Unlike me, he was wanted. Ashley had never considered abortion, and I had hoped that my daughter would not have the same experience as I'd had. She had Jay and me and a church community as a support system. I could celebrate knowing how much better life would be for Aiden than it had been for his mother and for me. I relished the tradition of retelling my grandson's unique birth story because my own birth story had meant so much to me. For as long as I could remember, I'd been told about the spectacular moment in sports history on the day my mother brought me into the world, the longest ever doubleheader in baseball. Every year, my aunt called or wrote to repeat the story.